And welcome everyone to our latest NCAA Social Series, episode 31. I'm Andy Katz. Pleased to be joined by three outstanding student athletes who have actually all completed the normal part of their eligibility. We'll get to Alex. He's still got another year of eligibility left here momentarily, but for the most part, they've gone through the college system in grad school or in the public sector or private sector, starting to get on with their lives, but they've got a lot to say on a student athlete pledge and where student athletes are at this moment. And we've got each level of Division 1, 2, and 3 represented here. We've got Colby Pepper, who played soccer at Wagner College, Alex Shillow, who played football and still will play football at Texas A&M Commerce, and Vedika Anand, who played women's tennis at Wagner. So I want to first update everyone where you guys are at in your lives and how COVID and the pandemic obviously upended you. I will start with you, Vedika. Where are you right now and where are you in your life?
Thank you so much for having us here, Andy. I'm currently home in India, New Delhi, India. I graduated, like you said, from Wagner College, women's tennis player, and I'm now working at UC San Diego Athletics in Scholar Athlete Development or Student Athlete Development. And
when do you hope to be back in the States?
Hopefully in the spring.
Well, yeah, we all hope that, obviously. All right, Colby, why don't you tell me where you are now and what your plans are?
Yeah, so I graduated from Covenant College this past May with a degree in sport administration, and now I'm currently in Athens, Ohio, working on my MBA, Master's of Sports Admin degree from Ohio University. So hoping to get into the sports world, and thank you so much for this time today, Mr. Katz.
And Alex?
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. Appreciate everyone for the opportunity. Still at Texas A&M Commerce. I graduated with my Bachelor of Science back in 2019. And so working on my MBA right now, coming back from my redshirt senior year next year. COVID kind of put a stump in that here in 2020, and I got some big things to do in 21 with our football team. So planning on coming back, playing as a graduate student again for A&M Commerce. So excited to be here. Excited to continue to move through COVID, and hopefully we can see the brighter end of the tunnel here soon.
All right, so I want to get to obviously what this last 7 months has been like for all of you in a moment. But first, I'm going to read the pledge, and I want you guys to sort of pick apart this different parts and how you hope that it can be applied, because we've got such a wide swath of student athletes across all divisions, various sports, all ethnicities. And so, this applies to different people in different ways, but we all obviously want to be united. So it says, and there are 8 points, and this is the National SAAC Unity Pledge. I am an NCAA student athlete, and I pledge to be a champion of unity on my team, on my campus, and in my community. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually stop each time, and we're going to go through each one. So let's stop right there with number 1. And Vedika, what does that number 1 mean to you?
I think it's more of an identity. We all resonate with the fact that we are an NCAA student athlete. So that opening line is sharing our identity with other student athletes. And it also speaks to that unity piece where we're sort of connecting with other student athletes in the fact that, this is a student athlete to student athlete pledge and conversation. So that first line is very impactful in that sense.
How about you, Colby?
I think a part that jumps out to me is the phrase champion of unity. I think as student athletes, we all strive to be champions. We all strive, whether it's an individual competition or at the end of the season, being that champion. So I think being a champion of unity is something that all student athletes can do, regardless of where they come from, their background, or where they're at in their life. I think it's something that was really impactful to me.
Alex?
Yeah, I think, kind of Vedika touched on it at the beginning. I'm an NCAA student athlete. That kind of brings us all together, connects us. And that's what we wanted to do with this pledge, is really have a connection across all divisions, across all sports, all states, in the NCAA for all student athletes. And so what that means is we're all going to stand together for unity, because that's one thing that we can do that are going to make us strongest together, no matter what's going on in each of our lives. So we all can resonate with being an NCAA student athlete and choosing unity.
All right, number 2. I pledge to stand against all forces of division and separation. I pledge to embrace differences and strive for inclusion and collaboration. We'll go around the room here. Colby, Alex, and Vedika. Go ahead, Colby.
Yeah, so I think this line is awesome. Is we have tangible ways of working for diversity and inclusion, and especially next week we have our diversity and inclusion social media campaign. That's something that we're all working on, each of our divisional SAC groups, and it's just a way to kind of put that into action right there.
Yeah, so really just starting to enhance that diversity piece and bring that in of what we really want to do with this pledge, and knowing that there's a lot of different factors that's going to come out of this piece when we're talking about unity on things that people are going through. But start off with where we're going to stand against and where we're going to strive for, because there are things that we all need to stand up against and be for each other and stand together, because that's going to be what's going to help us out and be stronger through all circumstances that are really facing each student athlete.
Yeah, awesome points already. But what I'll say is that, the goal is to address the issue. The issue is the racial unrest that is going on in the country right now. And the goal was to address that and sort of put that forward in our first line so that our student athletes know, this is something that, we stand with all of our student athletes, and we stand for racial equality. And the other piece to that is the action item. So we start with what we stand against and then what we strive for. So we're sort of indicating what we want to do. And that's sort of speaks to the action piece.
All right. Number 3, I pledge to stand against racism, picking up on your point, hate, and discrimination. I pledge to strive for love, care, and forgiveness. I want to go back to you, Vedika, in terms of words versus actions. This sounds great. I don't see how you could be against that. You should be for it, obviously, as a human being, regardless of where you're from. But how do the words become action?
So I think this unity pledge is step 1 to that action piece, reaching out to student athletes and encouraging them to be empathetic to other people, to show love and kindness speaks towards our goal towards creating a positive change and actually making that action happen. So this unity pledge in itself is our first step.
Alex?
Yeah, she hit on that very well. And the other piece to it is, we want that action piece of being kind and being loving to others, but we also got to forgive. We want to see change. We got to be open to seeing change happen, and we got to believe in change. And so really knowing that if we're going to strive for this and be for this, we got to know that we got to forgive the people that weren't there before, because we want to see them change. We don't want that to keep going. We don't all want to stand up against something and leave people out. We want people to come to the other side. We want them to come stand with us and strive for what we believe in.
Your turn, Colby.
I think Alex and Vedika hit on it very well. But one thing I want to add is how we're acting on and off the field. How are we showing love and showing support while we're competing? I know it's an easy place, and people mention that, oh, my actions got the best of me, my emotions, and I just lost it on the field. And making sure that we're taking steps to not let those circumstances occur on the field and then off the field as well, in our communities, being leaders inside and outside the classroom as well.
I'm going to go right back to you, Colby, here at number 4. I pledge to stand against silence, deceit, obscurity. I pledge to strive for dialogue, truth, and understanding.
Yeah, so I think that's a big thing that occurred this summer. There was a lot of conversations that we had with our SAC groups, and it's kind of where the pledge originated. A lot of tough conversations we needed to have, a lot of work done with the diversity inclusion sector of the NCAA, and having those different kinds of conversations and really getting to know where different people come from, and making sure that we discuss those and we don't kind of hide those or put them to the side.
Alex?
Yeah, I think the big piece right there is standing against silence. A lot of people say they don't want to get involved in different things, but, you standing by and watching bad things happening is you not, looking for change, looking for growth. You're just allowing for bad things to continue to happen in our society. And so we want to stand against that. We want to put people in those conversations where you got to talk about it. You got to bring truth to light, and we have to be able to make change by bringing that to light and talking about it. People really don't like to do that. It makes some people uncomfortable, but I think we're at a time in our society, and we've been there for a while, where, we can't go away from it. We got to run straight to it, and we got to hit it head on to see the positivity come out of this. Because if we continue just to be silent and let things go, to be deceitful, we're going to see, hate and division continue across our country and the world. And so we really want to encourage people to take this step to really stand against that.
Yeah, I think the main focus of that piece is dialogue, and that speaks to the student athlete voice and the fact that the student athlete voice is stronger than ever right now. So we want to encourage student athletes to speak up, reach out, and basically not stay silent. So I think that's a really good point right there.
All right, I'm going to go to you now, Alex, for number 5. I pledge to stand against fear and doubt. I pledge to strive for trust and belief in one another.
Exactly. So what we're doing with that line right there is, we got to be encouraging for change. We have to believe that it's going to happen. We can't say, man, these are just the old ways. Like, nothing's going to change. I'm trying. No one's really budging. People are going to stay in the ways that they were taught from where they were young. And we got to believe that fear and doubt will not win. We got to believe that, we can accomplish what we want to accomplish with this unity pledge. We got to believe people are going to change. And so I think that's the biggest thing where we're kind of hitting on those pieces, is really knowing that, if we encourage unity, people are going to start having the conversations if we give more opportunities for it. People are going to start believing that we have the numbers of people that are standing up against it. People got to start coming out the shadows, people standing by, being silent, letting bad things just happen. We have to have people rise up and stand together for the circumstances that are really impacting our country. And it's an important part with our student athlete voice to use our platform to be able to push that forward.
Colby?
I think Alex kind of hit it right on. And what was mentioned earlier is there's a lot of student athletes, over 400 and 100,000. There's a lot. So building that community of student athletes and coming together, united as one, and having those conversations, being involved, and not letting those fears get in our way is something that is very critical to this pledge.
Yeah, I think that those two lines just, I think, resonate with every student athlete, in the sense that those are 4 words that come in your mind while you're on the field, on the court: fear, doubt, trust, and belief in each other. Overcoming that fear and doubt to actually win or accomplish whatever goal you have as a student athlete, as a team. Those 2 lines really resonate with every student athlete, whether it is in relation to unity and everything that we are standing for with this pledge, or otherwise just as athletes. So really, that's my favorite one.
All right, I'm going to go right back to you, Colby, for this one at number 6. I pledge to stand against complacency and stagnancy. I pledge to strive for change and growth.
Yeah, I think that's a big action line, as some people have mentioned earlier, and making sure that we don't just kind of let these conversations and this time go by the wayside. But as student athletes, we are being those leaders. We are taking that action and having the conversations and engaging in dialogue and figuring out what we can do as leaders in our communities, on our campuses, to go out and be the change and make that difference.
Jump in, Alex.
Yeah, and I think, a big reason why we kind of put that in, complacency and stagnancy, we're seeing the heightened of all kinds of issues during this year. It's an election year, right? As Americans, we can see things are heightened, things are in the news more. And so what we want to see is continuous change, continuous growth. We don't want this to stop. We don't want people just to get comfortable. Oh, we've done a lot. We've stood up against things. There's been protests within March. That's enough. We got to keep the conversation going. We got to keep bringing these issues to light, because that's where we're going to see change. Things aren't going to change overnight. When we release this pledge, it's not going to be changed right when everyone puts their eyes on it. It's going to take people take the call to action and actually do some actionable steps to really implement change in their areas in the community. It's going to be on every single one of us, wherever we are. Be where your feet are is what I've always been told. To take this and to run with it and really implement change in the community.
Yeah, Alex made a great point about action in our community. And another piece to that is growth as a person, as yourself, like self-development and self-growth. This is an opportunity where we're all stuck in our homes. We're in a situation that we've never been in before. This is an opportunity to make the most of that situation, whether that is spending time with your family, taking care of your mental and physical health, learning a new passion, anything that might be. This is an opportunity to develop and grow as people and as citizens of this country or world in itself.
All right, Alex. Number 7, I commit to supporting my fellow student athletes in all circumstances that impact them. I commit to both choosing unity personally and encouraging it for all.
Yeah, really with this one, we want to be inclusive. We know that there are different circumstances that impact every student athlete depending, on who you are and who your identity, what you identify as, different things you have going on in your life, where you come from, what you look like. There's different things that impact our student athletes. Whether you're an international student athlete, everyone has different struggles. And so we're using this piece to say, hey, no matter what your circumstance is, I don't care what's going on, if it's racial injustice, if it's, identity injustice, sexual orientation, wherever it may be, we're going to stand with you. We want to use this speech to say, it's not just about this one issue. This is important. This is kind of what's spearheading this initiative. But we know there's a lot of issues that our student athletes go through every year through their life. And because we are people, we saw that COVID took away our sport identity. Everyone was kind of out of sports for 6 to 8 months or still out of sports now. But at the end of the day, when that next day came, when they made those decisions back in March, we were still here on this earth. We were still walking around, breathing, talking in society. And, we know that there's different things that affect it than just being a student athlete. And we want to stand up for those things that affect all of our student athletes.
Colby?
I'm gonna build off of Alex's comment because I think he hit it spot on. It's finding everything that could potentially disrupt a student athlete and their experience, and being there, stepping beside them, being that brother or sister, and coming alongside them and helping them out in any way we can. Because just as many of our sports are team sports, we have to come next to one another and help each other succeed. We can't do it alone. And so I think that's just an awesome part of being a part of the NCAA and having so many other student athletes from all different walks of life and backgrounds, and being able to support them and come together as one.
Yeah, I think this piece really speaks to us as student athlete leaders. We stand with our fellow student athletes as leaders on our campus, conference, and at the national level. We want to reach out to our student athletes and let them know that there are other student athletes out there that are working towards improving or bettering the student athlete experience. We're here to support you and help you in any way possible. And rest, Colby and Alex pretty much hit on everything else, so I won't repeat myself, but this is just a way of saying, as leaders, we're here to support you.
And of course, number 8, which I'll take, is I pledge these things because we are stronger together, #united as one. So, in theory, these are all wonderful. We want all buy-in from everybody. But that doesn't always happen. Vedika, you're a tennis player, and I think about, anytime I went to my son's USTA matches, he's still going through that. There's always that pledge that's on the wall anytime you play a tournament. And you got to sign the pledge a lot of times before you can play in a tournament. You're agreeing to the way you're going to behave on the court. And I can't, all the years I've been covering college athletics, a lot of times you'd see a "Don't bet on it" poster in the athletic training room and things like that. How much do we need complete buy-in at all levels to see this pledge, for everyone to see? Because this isn't just about the student athletes. You need everyone else involved in athletics to see it, to know that's the way you think, to have buy-in. Vedika.
Absolutely. You hit it right on point. And speaking from that tennis experience, I come from a country where college athletics is virtually just non-existent. So for me to come to the United States and be a part of a team, be a part of a community, and learn the idea of unity, even though I play an individual sport, really helped me understand that. So it is essentially everyone buying into this and everyone being together and involved in this. And I think people are more willing to do that given the current circumstances. So I think this is the perfect time for us to, launch this pledge or say this pledge to our student athletes. It's the right time, and it's I think more than we know, student athletes are ready to be together and to buy into this pledge.
Yeah, so Colby and Alex, look, we need buy-in at the highest level. Obviously, the three of you did not play at the major money sports at, the Power Five. And I don't want to disparage those athletes because there's plenty of great individuals, the majority of which, would be buying into this. I hope they all buy into this. But, some of them have pro aspirations and they may be not thinking as much about the student athlete. I think that's in the past. I think what we saw from March on is an empowerment of student athletes, regardless of how long they're going to be on this campus, these respective campuses. They want change now, whether or not it actually literally affects them or will affect someone else. And I can actually see that with the three of you, because your eligibility, everyone except for Alex, is all over, and you still want to affect change. But if you can, Colby and Alex, take me to that other level of Division I and how hopeful you are that those athletes that will buy into this as much as the three of you are selling it.
Yeah, I'll kind of hit on it first, and kind of want to shout out our other colleagues, Ethan Good and Braley Keller, chair of Division I and Division III SACs, for really helping us with this. Andy, this is a conversation that we all had. We knew that, hey, I know I come from a small division. I know we have 120,000 student athletes. My market of, to market out for student athletes is a little bit smaller than that higher level. They got more eyes on them, more in the millions. And so we were very strategic with this. We were saying, how can we get this pledge and get this mark marketed to everyone? And so what we saw, and I want to shout out the student athletes at the highest level, we saw a lot of Power 5 student athletes take that stance early, like you said, back in March throughout the summer. They started implementing their own pledges, their own marks, their own strategies to combat what was going on in their area. So I want to applaud them for doing that. This is just a continuation of that. We want to empower the student athletes that haven't took that stance just yet. We want to continue to support the student athletes that already took that stance. And we want to continue to just keep growing this racial injustice push, this unity push that we see across the entire landscape of the NCAA. And we've seen, athletes with pro aspirations continue to stand out and stand up for things that are right. And, who knows what it is. Sometimes it's controversial. People want to stand up for this, draft stock, depending where you're going. We've seen all that. We've seen all that. That's just the reality of it. But we've seen people still make it a point. I think Vedika touched on it right now. It's a great time for people to stand up and a great time to affect change and growth, given the circumstances that are going on in our country and this world.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of Alex, I think our leaders, we have leaders at our Division III and Division II and the lower level Division I's as well. Our student athletes are well known in their communities and lead on and off the field in their classrooms, in their communities as well. And they've been getting to work on some of this stuff. And I think especially at the Division I and the Power 5 levels, they have a little more of a spotlight on them. They have a little more of that background already, but I think our lower levels are also doing an awesome job in having these conversations. And something I'm looking forward to seeing, Mr. Katz, you kind of mentioned this, and just that pledge on a wall. I hope to walk into Barnes Gym at Covenant College and see a big pledge on the wall and see some signatures. I also hope to watch March Madness next month and see different those marks on their jerseys and the players having those. And big shout out again to Ethan Good and the Division I SAC team for getting that mark together. But that's something we're hoping to push out as well, and to have student athletes be able to have that symbol. And I think symbols are big in getting the word out and starting those conversations. And especially as leaders in the community, I think we can seek those out and have those conversations with others in our communities and society as well.
But now expand on that. What do you hope to see? Are you talking about on a uniform, or what exactly?
Yeah, so we're hoping to see those on uniforms, and we're hoping to get those out as soon as possible to have that mark, and for different student athletes to different teams to have those, and for that to be another conversation piece just on their jerseys.
And Alex and Vedika, I mean, those kind of things, you're exactly right, because if it's a visual, then they're forced to be talked about when the game is televised. I mean, that happens all the time, whether it's an autism pin to talk about autism pledges, that happens every year during college basketball season, that gets discussed. When coaches coach without shoes or socks for Samaritan's feet, that happens and that's discussed. So all those kind of actions obviously matter because then they get talked about and then you reach a wider audience. I just want to circle back to one other point related to this as we wrap up, is that we're in a new era, whether it's because of COVID, because of, systemic racism and social injustice that for whatever reason, a lot of mainstream America is now waking up to, which has been there for centuries, not just decades. But it feels to me that we are, it's like when you feel you're part of history, that the student athletes are empowered now. They have the power that coaches, whether they would like to or not, cannot hold anyone back. If you want to say what you want to say, obviously there are guardrails within reason. You have the power to do so. And so if you want to have a pledge, in decades past, there might be a coach that might be thinking like a different era and say, no. You pledge what I say, not what you say. And not that there should be no rules, but it feels like there's a difference now. And if you could just all speak to the difference that you have felt from COVID to what has happened in terms of social injustice in the last 6 to 7 months. And I'll start with you, Vedika, and then we'll end with Colby going to Alex in the middle.
Yeah, it's like watching from the outside, to be very honest. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I came to the United States very lost and didn't really understand much about the culture or anything else. But I did see something very stark when I first came to the US, and that was individualization. There was a sense of disparity among people, and coming from a society which is very family oriented, that was something that was very different to me. I feel like that has changed the last 6 months. I feel, of course, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect situation, and that's very hard to get. But I see people being more inclusive, empathetic, kind, and honestly, we can only hope for more and more of that. So it's a positive change that we've seen, and I'm really happy to see that. I can't wait to be back in the United States again, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Vedika hit on the great. And, one thing I'll say, Andy, is, probably going to school and living in New York is probably different from going to school living in Texas, right? Pretty obvious there. But one thing that's the same across, I think, our culture as Americans is that things move like this, lightning speed. Everyone's kind of worried about kind of what they got going on. And that's what we have with sport. We're focused on our sport. We're trying to win that championship. We're trying to get to March Madness. We're trying to get to the playoffs. We're trying to do those different things where we got to focus time on that. And so I think, COVID has been a horrible thing, obviously, right? But I think it slowed us down as a country. It slowed us down and really opened our eyes to let us have time to focus on issues that were going on in our country. Like, as you said, systemic racism has been around for centuries, not decades. And I think it was really time in this new decade of 2020 to really look at the issues that we had going on, and maybe it took a pandemic for us to actually sit down and look at it. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of our student athletes, feel empowered. They've got to see what's going on in the issues, and they stood up and said, I don't care what coach might say. I don't care what the media might say. I'm going to stand up because this is right. And I'm going to stand up for what is right. And what right is right and wrong is wrong. And I think the student athletes are seeing that, and they're not afraid. And, I want to applaud the bravery of our student athletes and the leadership. We're seeing leaders, not even if you're involved in SAC or on your campus, we've seen just, student athletes feel empowered and to stand up for what they feel is important.
Yeah, I think the empowerment is a huge piece to this, and how student athletes feel that they're ready to speak out on these topics, and they feel that they're given that platform, they have it, and they're going to go out and do what they can to better their society, better their community, and love on others, and have those kind of relationships. I think another part that I wanted to hit on was how professional sports this summer have helped our student athletes as well. I think seeing athletes that have a little more of a following than some of us, and seeing how they use their platform has been huge. Whether that's what they're saying before the game, what they're doing during or after the game, and how they're able to use their platform to encourage those around us. Obviously, I might not have a platform like an NBA basketball player, but I still have a platform of my community. When I was at Covenant College, I still have those people that were looking up to me and the people around me. So I think just kind of finding where you can make that impact and doing your best to leave that impact on your community and better where you're coming from.
Well, I'll tell you, the words of the late, great congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis, they always ring true to me. Good trouble. And, you know, this shouldn't be trouble, but it is good trouble to raise awareness to all these issues. I'm so impressed by the three of you. The future is bright. The fact that you all want to continue to contribute to the NCAA, to student athletes, even though you easily could go on to the next chapter in your lives. Vedika, stay safe. We hope that you're back here soon. Colby, you know, good luck in your new endeavors there in Ohio. And Alex, obviously you got another year to play at Texas A&M Commerce. Hopefully that will come soon enough, and we will be able to move forward as we get into 2021. Appreciate all of you. As always, you can go to ncaa.org/social series. All our social series are archived right there. This is episode 31. We'll talk to you next week. Stay safe, everyone.